Welcome back to Deviatus. I hope you've been enjoying the episodes lately. I want to take a moment to thank everyone for their comments and emails, and I want to send one shout out in particular. I just received an email last week from a listener who goes by DMP that I'd like to share. He writes, I just listened to episode 28 and wanted to tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed it and have subscribed to the podcast. I found your podcast randomly as I was scrolling through the podcast app. In general, I'm pretty critical of paranormal stuff, but I find it very entertaining in the same way that I love the X-Files. Thank you so much, DMP, for listening and subscribing. I'm a huge fan of the X-Files, so that was quite a compliment to hear. Guys, when you write reviews on iTunes or whatever podcatcher you use, it really helps other listeners like DMP to find the show. I hope you consider giving Deviatus a review if you've been listening. Last time on Deviatus, we heard from listener Samantha Lang about quite a few experiences in her life that all started at a very young age with a Ouija board. This week, I've got another fascinating listener interview with Chris Wolford. Chris found Deviatus through a friend of the show, Ryan Sprague, of Into the Fray fame, and I should mention that Ryan has actually started his very own podcast called Somewhere in the Skies, named, of course, after his book, which I interviewed him about way back on episode 3. I also happen to subscribe to both Somewhere in the Skies and Into the Fray. If you like Deviatus, I highly encourage you to check both of those shows out. Today, Chris is going to share some of his own terrifying personal experiences, including an encounter with multiple alien greys and repeat encounters with an unidentified craft. He also shares some information about some of his own research on UFO phenomena. We'll even discuss the highly controversial Tom DeLonge and why Chris considers it wise to avoid discounting him so quickly. So without further ado, here is Chris Wolford. Tell me about your first experience you had as a kid.
I would say it happened in 1984 or 1985. I don't really know what year exactly to pinpoint it, but I will say this. Albert Rosales has a book about humanoids and I guess you would call quote unquote aliens, experiences with people. And he's got a book from 80 to 85. And in that book, on the front cover on the lower left-hand side is pretty much what I dealt with, what I experienced a being. I will never say it's alien. I will say it's something other. That's why I like the term others, because I don't know that that's exactly what we're dealing with. That's what I dealt with. I don't know. I can't say it was alien. It was alien to me in the sense it did not look human, but I can't say it took me to Zeta Reticuli. I will not say that because it didn't. So I grew up a lot on my grandmother's farm in the thumb of Michigan. Would spend weeks on end up there. And it just so happened to be I was up there for a time, like I said, either in 84 or 85. And here's another caveat to this, is I never, during that time, I mean, obviously you're 4 or 5 years old, I never saw literature or film or TV shows dealing with the subject of UFOs or aliens or anything like that. So I don't think that could muddy the waters for me personally, because I never dealt with that topic until after I learned about communion in 91 or 92 when that movie came out with Christopher Walken. But in any case, I was on this farm. It's an older farmhouse, and she would not have a bed for me, so I would have to sleep with her in her bed. And she has a giant bay window in this older house. I mean, huge. It's maybe 6 feet long by 4 feet tall. And any case, I for whatever reason felt to get up, like something was telling me. I didn't hear voices in my head, but I just felt like something was telling me to get up. So I looked out because her door was open and you could see the bay window. And I described this before to other podcasts that it looked like the Apollo rocket. That's where this story gets weird. It did not look like a typical UFO or disc. It did not glow. The only color that came off of it was like a whitish light, but not so bright you couldn't see. But it, for lack of a better term, it looked like an Apollo rocket. Mm-hmm. And it went in reverse. Instead of taking off, it landed. And the next thing I know, I'm outside. And again, this is where just recently, within the last few months, I was listening to a podcast with Joshua Cutchin, and he's a researcher that deals with smell, and he deals with food with the paranormal, related to the paranormal. And in this podcast, he had mentioned that you do not, in your dreams, you cannot smell. So that right there tells me I was not dreaming. This is a real event, because when you grow up on a farm, or you're on a farm, it has a distinct smell. It does not smell like anything else. And it was more of an earthy smell. It wasn't sulfur like he has talked about before in his book Brimstone Deceit, but I could just smell the earth while I was out there with these other things, whatever they were, these beings. Mm-hmm. And excuse me, was not walking. It was like I was being floated, and not very high off the ground, but just high enough that I could not touch the ground. And I never was afraid. I never freaked out. They never said anything to me. They never telepathically said anything to me or said something to me. I just remember going around the house. And normally when you would walk around that house, it would take a good minute, mm-hmm. because it was a large area of property. And it took only a few seconds to get all the way around. But I don't know what side that would be, but the side facing the field, mm-hmm. there was corn, because that's what they were growing during that time. Corn can get really, really tall towards the end of the season. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what time of day would you say this was?
It was at night. It was definitely at night. Okay. My grandmother was sleeping. There was the only two people in the house were me and her. That was it. And a dog.
Okay, and you said it was
lived outside.
Okay, you said it was around 1985, and I hate to date your age here, but how old were you at the time?
I'm 37 now.
Okay.
So a while ago, over 32 years ago.
Okay, so around 5, yep. Maybe.
Yeah, around there.
Okay, if I'm doing my math right. I don't.
Again, yeah. I believe that was correct. The other weird thing for me in recent years is this memory has come back to me. It started in 2014. I remember remembering it earlier than that, but mm-hmm. didn't dwell on it. And I find this also curious. Being a armchair researcher into the field of UFOs, mm-hmm. I never really dug abduction cases or any literature regarding abductions. I really didn't even like the movie Communion. Mm-hmm. It was too scary, and it made me frightened. And I didn't correlate that event with my grandmother in the movie at all. I was like, ooh, this is crazy, that you can just be taken. And it didn't really register in my mind. Like I said, not till 2014 is when I started to come back to, hey, this really did happen. So the smell for me is, for me personally, the thing that really makes me believe it was not a dream. It was not a figment of my imagination, because I could still smell that smell. Mm-hmm. So as I was saying, the cornfield was quite tall, and out of the cornfield came what you would call a larger gray, a taller gray. And that's the last I remember of being with them. I don't remember going on a crat. I can't say they took me wherever. I'm not going to say that because it didn't happen, or at least I don't remember. The next thing I do remember is being put, being back in the bed. It's not like they put me back there. It was just, I remember, that's the next thing I remember is being in the bed and again looking out the bay window, and that same Apollo rocket that went in reverse now was taking off. And that is it. That's my event. Now, so many years later, obviously, I'll bring it up to 2016. It was February, I believe. And my wife and I were watching a YouTube video with Mike Clelland, the UFO researcher that deals with the owls and synchronicities in a UFO abductee. And when he mentioned that people with the name Christopher, or permutations of Christoph, tend to have these interactions with these others. And then he threw this bombshell, and I was like, oh my God. I was like totally floored. You have German blood. And my mom's side of the family is all German. It's 100% German. So that, coupled with Joshua Cutchin's thing, with the smell that you can't smell in your dreams, it's scientifically proven, I was like, oh, well, now this really, really is real. Like, it did happen. I don't want to be under regression. I don't want to go down that path. I'm totally good. I haven't had any other interactions with beings. I will say I had a weird thing happen to me March of 2016. I was leaving to go to the Michigan MUFON conference, the big one that was happening in Michigan. And I stepped out the door. It was around 8 o'clock in the morning. Nice clear day, crisp in the morning. And a voice that was not my own entered my mind and said, if you go to this event, we will no longer interact with you. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. No, I'm going to go. And I went, and I will say I haven't had any more weird occurrences. Not that I mean, through my life, I've had various UFO encounters, some closer than others. Nothing that's like too crazy, nothing like that original experience. And like I said, I'm not one to go around and talking about this. It was only in the last few years have I started to talk about it. And then when, like I said, Mike Clelland talked about what he talked about, and then Joshua Cutchin, I felt a little bit more comfortable telling people. I don't really care whether people believe me or not. I don't really care. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm not trying to write a book about it. I'm not trying to go out on the UFO conference scene and trying to make money off of it. I don't have any inclination to doing that. I will say that I feel that because that I have had this interaction, for whatever reason, I've told this to a few other people, not UFO researchers, but a few other personal friends or family, that I get the feeling when I do various research on this phenomenon, whatever it is, and I go down the right path, doors continue to open. And it's not like literally doors, but for whatever reason, it feels like the phenomenon, whatever it is showing me, yes, this is an avenue you may need to go down. Study this for a while. I will say this: when I choose something that is less credible or kind of out there, the door shuts and it just seals up, and it's almost like it dries up, and there'll be a month at a time where I just don't feel like doing any research at all and don't care about the topic at all, and I just want to live my life. But then it comes slowly back and says, come on, you need to get back on the train, and we'll guide you. It doesn't say that, but it's the sense internally is what I'm getting, what I'm trying to convey to you. And by the way, this is the first time I've really mentioned this, because I don't want people to totally think I'm loony, but I do know from other people who have had experiences with whatever this phenomenon is, they feel the same way. They've had the same interactions, and they've had the same kind of things shown to them. So yeah.
Let's, if we could back up just a little bit. You've said a lot of things. I feel like my mind's going nuts.
Yeah.
This would imply that there is some sort of intelligence behind these voices going into your head, communicating with you that wants disclosure. Like you're working towards disclosure, or at least learning more about it yourself, whether the purpose is to disclose that to the public or not. Would you agree?
I would agree, because I feel very confident that whatever the UFO researchers out there want disclosure, or whoever wants disclosure, it's not going to happen the way that they think it's going to happen. It's going to be individualized. It's up to you to accept it or not. They, whatever they are slowly, along with, and I don't want to be labeled as a total crazy person, but I will say there is a program in place right now, active, that is trying to show that. And again, I don't know that I want to go down the road of saying we are alone, because I don't know that's what we're dealing with. We could be dealing with multiple things. I don't know. But I will say that there is a program afoot within certain agencies or certain people or certain groups that do want this to be out for the public to be aware of. And maybe one way that the others can help that, foment that, because they've never, if they want to disclose, they could just land on the White House lawn, right? But they haven't. That's part of the thing that a lot of people get upset with, is this, they just think it's crap. UFO observers or people who have been abducted, they're full of crap because it's made up. But when you actually have an event happen to you, or you see something, it's life-changing. And then now you have to look at the world a different way. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow, if it's going to happen next week, but it's coming. I mean, today we had the announcement that NASA had found those oceans on the Saturn moons. I feel fairly confident that is part of the public. Get them to come to the water well, if you're a horse, and to get you ready for what eventually is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be announced, or if it's just going to be more of yes, there's so much information now that we can't deny it. I don't know. That's a fantastic question. But without a shadow of a doubt, I do know that there is a program ongoing right now to try to show that we're not alone, or we're dealing with something that is multifaceted. It could do multiple things, or maybe it is multiple things, because you have the psi phenomenon associated with this. You have structured craft, you have orbs, you have the poltergeist part, you have the Skinwalker Ranch type of situation where you have creatures coming out of portholes and stuff. I mean, it's endless. I mean, yeah, I don't even know. It's a whole big rabbit hole, but I know I'm saying a lot of things, but all that is connected. How so? I don't personally know, but I can just tell you from personal experiences that they are all related. And if you're not on board with that and you just think that's still you're a nuts and bolts guy, not that I'm saying you are, but you're going to have to get past that paradigm because otherwise you'll be stuck in the same rut. Well,
I know individuals on both sides of the fence there, but I like to let my audience decide.
Yeah, for sure.
But going back again to what you said about, I think the message you received was that if you go to this MUFON conference, you're going to stop receiving information from us. That means that you've been getting communication or interaction the whole time. But you were saying you didn't have any memories beyond what was experienced as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had UFO experiences, meaning seeing craft.
Right.
I saw in '93 in middle school. I was on my way to my bus stop, and I just felt a presence. Like, if you're in a haunted house and you just feel that cold, or you feel that somebody's watching you. I got that kind of feeling, and I turned around, and it was like, the Bob Lazar sport model from Area 51 or S4.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's exactly what I saw above a tree, maybe 150 feet above a tree, and it blinked out. And this is a daylight sighting. The other sighting I had was about a year later on spring break, again in middle school, in Florida, in Sanibel Island, facing the Gulf of Mexico. And it was 3 orangish orbs that were doing maneuvers that no conventional aircraft can do. Not a helicopter, not a plane, not that I know of. I mean, it could have been a top secret aircraft. I'm not going to discount that, but it was doing stuff that you or I couldn't do in a regular aircraft. And here's the cool part is there was 12 witnesses, including 1 doctor. So he, though, thought it was a boat mast. And I was like, no, there's no way. A, it's too high up in the sky for it to be a boat mast. But whatever, if you want to believe it's a boat mast, you can. And that's it. I mean, I haven't had any other experiences other than one experience at a state park here in Michigan, which is more, I would say, a poltergeist / Skinwalker Ranch-esque event that happened to me in 2010 with my then girlfriend and my cousin. Now she's now my wife. We were at a state park, and it's a Native American petroglyph park in the thumb of Michigan. Again, not super close to where my grandmother lived, but within 50 miles. And we went to this park, and they had petroglyphs, but it was closed. You couldn't go see the petroglyphs because they were enclosed. So we went on the nature trail around, and it was a weird day. It was a November day. It was 70 or 72 degrees, somewhere in that range. It was warm for an early November day. Usually we live here in Michigan, and it's usually never that warm, especially November. And I remember being there, and my girlfriend at the time noticed that the water and the temperature was the first thing that she noticed had dropped, plummeted to the point where you could see her breath. Mm-hmm. The second thing she noticed, and then I picked up on it too, is there's a creek that runs through this nature walk. And it's not a huge creek, but it's not a small one. And the water was like boiling, like it was angry. And then my cousin became very frightened and was like, Chris, what do we do? What do we do? I said, well, my dad always said that Native Americans that were part of this land, if we've pissed off their spirit or whatever we're dealing with, maybe if we give an offering, it will calm it down. So my girlfriend, she smokes. I said, break up your cigarette. We're going to give it tobacco. And I kid you not, we put the tobacco on this rock. Everything stopped. Temperature came back up to 70. And it was like nothing ever happened. It was the strangest thing ever in recent memory that has ever happened to me, besides the voice entering my mind. Now, with that being said, there's a researcher in Michigan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, John Tenney.
Yeah.
He actually has a person who lives at the edge of this park who is a retired GM worker who told John Tenney, hey, do you want to see, for lack of a better term, a troll? And John Tenney didn't really believe him and said, yeah, I'll take you up on your offer. And the guy's like, listen, you got to do a bunch of things. I can't remember all of them. I'll just say one of them for sure was you had to stare at the sun for 30 seconds. The second one was you can't eat meat for a week. The third one, you had to do something nice for a person. And then the fourth one, you had to be kind to an animal. And there was like a few more. Anyways, Tenney did all that, went with him. And because this guy's land butts right up to that park, Tenney was like, okay, let's go. And the guy takes him. And they went in the wintertime. And sure enough, this guy said, they're here. They're talking to me. They're here. And Tenny's like, what are you talking about? I don't see anything. The guy's like, no, they're here. They're telling me, just wait right here, and they'll show themselves. And like a sparkler, you know how if you light a sparkler that's like a little, I don't know, flames sparkling, and all of a sudden a little thing just ran away, like ran right in front of Tenny, and he was like, oh my God, this guy was not joking, like he was telling the truth. So Tenny takes out his camera and he goes, can you have one just come right in front of us so I can take a picture of it? And supposedly, when I talked to Tenny at this conference at the Dogman Symposium this past summer, he said he had gotten a shot of this thing, whatever it is, but he's never released it. So I can't say that I've seen it, but it is interesting that in this park I had the experience, and then this guy's property butts right up to that park. So that kind of makes sense that this is a weird Skinwalker Ranch type of an area, though I've never heard of any UFO reports, but I would venture to guess that if you stay there long enough, you'd probably see something weird. So, and I do plan on taking a trip out there. The only thing that's making me hesitant is whatever Tenny experienced came home with him, and it left footprints all over his roof and his porch. And he did take pictures of that, and you did see they're definitely little hooves. It was interesting. So take that as you will, but it's this is not like not unique. You had the Hiabacha Forest in Romania. You have Skinwalker Ranch. I know there's other places on the planet that definitely have this kind of phenomenon that is like multi-tiered, you know, and not just have one thing. It's a multitude of things. So. Yeah. So maybe this weird crap follows me. I don't know.
Well, I think there's some people that tend to attract certain, you know, paranormal phenomena. Usually, I've rarely encountered anybody that has experienced, you know, like ghosts and UFOs or UFOs and Sasquatch kind of thing every once in a while. And then I had a guy on the show recently named Ed Roman who he's had experiences with all three. And
oh boy!
It's, you know, I think there's certain people that are just magnets for this kind of thing. But I still want to take you back, though. I do have more questions about that initial sighting. You said that it looked like a tall gray.
Yeah, but like more cute and cuddly. It wasn't the scary communion type.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
But then I think there was something you said, and I should have wrote it down, but. I think you referred to them like in the plural sense of you were with them.
Yeah, there's about three is what I kind of remember. I know for sure two, vaguely three, and then a fourth would be the tall, super tall one. It was above 7 feet tall that came out of the cornfield.
Okay.
But he was much, much more like a typical gray would be, and a lot more ominous looking. But again, I was not afraid. Maybe because I didn't know what I was looking at, you know? I don't know.
Now, obviously, I mean, I personally would be tempted to do like some kind of hypnoregression. You said that you don't want to do that, but
no, I feel that when you do that, you open Pandora's box. My feeling with alien abduction is when you look at a lot of people they remember. They don't need to be hypnotized to remember. So I'm pretty good with that because again, once you open that can of worms, you can't put it back, you know. And I'm totally good. I don't need to open up like, oh, I've been abducted my entire life. I really don't need. I don't really want to know if I have. To be honest, I really don't want to go down that road. Because I know it can tear people apart, and it has torn people apart. And not to say that I'm not a strong individual, I am, but I have a family now. I got to think about not wanting to destroy that by opening that can of worms, if in fact there is something there. So,
now, do you believe that you may have been abducted?
I mean, one would say, yeah. I mean, the thing about it for me is I don't like, I wish I could have gone back, like, you know, you rethink or you replay it in your mind. Like, I should have looked at a clock, but obviously I'm 4 or 5 years old. I don't even know what I'm looking at. I don't even know what I'm dealing with. So yeah, I wish I could have done a lot of different things. One being is, like I said, look at a clock and see if I have missing time. Um, Maybe. I mean, um, yeah, I don't know.
Now, I'm always interested to talk to people who have felt like they have been abducted. Like, have you ever? I feel like there's some patterns that pop up, like, you know, missing
Hmm.
time and you know, some odd medical findings. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Funny you asked that. When I talked to Mike Clelland back in 2016, he asked me if I had any medical issues, and I told him when I was a month old, I had open heart surgery.
Hmm.
Now, in his research, he's not come across anything like that, anybody like that. But I don't know. I mean, it is unique. I will say this: I was one of the first kids in southeastern Michigan to have open heart surgery, and successfully done, because it wasn't a thing that they really did. I had it done when I was a month old. So I don't know if there's that, like, possibility. I don't know. I tend to lean more towards what he had said, that people who, not that it's exclusively to the name Chris, but the permutations of Chris and Christoph and all that. That's interesting of note. In the German blood, I've heard that from a few different people. So that's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, see, I've never heard that before. The German blood and the name Chris or derivative of Chris. What do you think? I mean, I can't even begin to ask a question about that.
Yeah, I
How is
mean,
that related? You know?
well, all I can say is there's a YouTube video with Mike Clone giving a talk in England where he talks about this, and he's interviewed a couple thousand people, and then he did his own research via books and asking other researchers, like Barbara Lamb and a few other people, and this is a commonality that keeps coming up: German blood and the name Chris, or permutations of Chris. So I don't know. I mean, the German blood thing, that, like I've said, I've heard that before from other researchers. It's not something that I've not heard about before. Why that is, I couldn't tell you. It is interesting. You can probably just look that up and draw your own conclusions. I don't know. I mean, and I don't think it's so much a race thing, or a not so much a race thing, but a blood thing. But maybe it is. Maybe those people just tend to get picked up or experience the paranormal a lot more than people from Czechoslovakia or Dubai or wherever they may be. I don't know. It is interesting though.
So, and you mentioned you're currently kind of researching all this stuff. What has been some kind of information that you've found that I guess maybe has changed your thoughts on some of the common thoughts? Or
Regarding just the UFO topic at large,
yeah, just in
or
general, maybe about abductions and, you know, having your experiences. Do you develop any sort of stereotypes that you have
um,
broken or?
I will say that, um, and this is going to get me in a lot of trouble because I'm not opposed to science, because there is a need for it. But researchers who think science is going to solve this mystery are dead wrong. I was just say that they're dead wrong, because science has not been able to figure this phenomenon out for 70 years, and they think all of a sudden that the data that they're going to get from a sighting report or abduction report or what have you is going to change this paradigm. It's not going to happen, because if it would have happened, it would have already taken place, and it hasn't, because the phenomenon itself knows this. Um, the other thing I would say is that this phenomenon may be a lot more complex than what we give credit to, and um, um, we may not know exactly what we're dealing with, in the sense of maybe whatever this is for lack of a better term, artificial intelligence that is controlling all these other aspects of this phenomenon, like the structured craft, the beings, for lack of a better term. You know, that's where I'm at with that. I mean, we had discussed before the show started, talk a little bit about the DeLon thing. I'll go only mention this.
Mm-hmm.
One of his advisors that I know, I would say personally, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he does share the same name as me, and that's all I'll say. We are going to learn some things with Tom DeLonge that we've not learned before. Now, I'll make this big giant disclaimer, and then we'll move on to another topic if you would like. Mm-hmm. I'm not disagreeing with other researchers that are saying that he is being used. For sure. I feel that he probably is being used, but this is our best chance at finding out what the hell we're dealing with. I'm sorry, but it is. I know it sucks. I know the guys who've been in the field for 30, 40, 50, whatever how many years it may be, or maybe you're just starting out and you feel that, oh, why did they give a rock star this opportunity? Well, guess what? He took the bull by the horns and he did it, and you're just sad or hurt that they didn't choose you. And maybe because you're too narrow-minded, they didn't choose you, or maybe you're not grasping all the concepts. Maybe you're only focused on the nuts and bolts aspect. I'm not saying what he is telling everybody is the 100% gospel or truth. It probably isn't, but it might be. There may be nuggets of truth in there. And do I feel it is a disinformation campaign? I initially felt that could be a possibility. The more and more I learn from one of his advisors, no, I do not feel that's what this is. I feel what it is these, and I won't say government because I don't think it's a government thing. I feel that whoever is the gatekeeper of this knowledge, or at least knows more about it than you or I, wants an 800-pound gorilla off their back finally, because they've held this for 70 years, and I know a lot of people would say that we will never disclose because they just will never disclose because they have military might because of it, they have all this technology from it, what have you. But I feel that they just want this 800-pound gorilla off their back finally, so they can just do whatever the hell they were going to do, and they can move on. I will say this also: whatever or whenever we do get these little tidbits or this quote unquote announcement from Tom DeLonge, we will learn something. But it's going to be up to the individual to really do their due diligence and research every nook and cranny, because the more I look at that, the more I see researchers just saying he's selling a lot, or he's trying to sell books or whatever. Listen, he's worth $60 million. You think he really wants to throw away his career with Blink-182 to go do this? I don't think so. And if you think he's mental, you can have your own opinion, but I'll just say that, again, this is probably our best opportunity to learn what this phenomenon is. And yes, it may be the narrative that whoever is controlling him want out, and that's fine, because at least we're going to get somewhere, versus being stuck in that proverbial hamster wheel and we just go round and round and round.
So yeah, I mean, let's say we approach Tom DeLonge with an open mind.
Yeah.
Are you or is there anyone else that you might know that might be able to corroborate any of the information he's putting out there?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I know for a fact that maybe not the next book, the one that's going to be with Lavenda, Peter Lavenda, but the third book, he will be bringing up the aspects of the German blood and the pure mutations of Chris. I know this for a fact from this person that is one of his advisors. Actually, early on, I guess maybe the phenomenon guided me. I don't know, but I was one of the few people early on that got pretty much close to who was advising him before the WikiLeaks stuff came out. So, yeah, we're going to learn corroboration. Some of the stuff is going to be rehashed, or some of it's going to be like, well, like my original hypothesis was he just stole from Nick Redfern, he stole from Bob Exler, and this is just like Cosmic Journey 2.0 all over again. And I'm wrong. I'm here to say that we are going to learn some things. Again, the caveat is he could be being used. Okay, I'm not going to discount that. But again, I feel that this is going to be our best chance, for whatever reason, to learn or get closer to what this phenomenon really is. And I don't like to say government because I don't think they're fully all-knowing, but I don't feel that they have all the answers. They have a lot more than you or I. They definitely have a working knowledge of what this phenomenon is, but it may not be as much as we give them credit for. Some people think they don't know anything, and that's just stupid. You just have to be really dumb if you think that, because the evidence that we have already is quite clear that they do know something is going on, and they've been studying it for a long time. So that's all I really want to say about that.
Okay. Well, and I know we talked about a potential other topic. I'll have to get you back on the show at a later time to maybe talk about that, and as well as after DeLong's books come out. But tell me about your Facebook page. It's called Occupy Area 51.
The idea came from Richard Dolan. He had turned this idea, Occupy Area 51, after he had thought, I think it was after AD, shortly thereafter, WikiLeaks became a thing, and he had thought that he envisioned that we were going to possibly, if we were going to get a disclosure or at least some information, new information about whatever this phenomenon is going to come in that form of a WikiLeaks or a Chelsea Manning or Edward Snowden. Came a little bit later, but he'd hit the nail right on the head, and I was like, well, I'm going to start a Facebook group. Now, I will say this, I haven't really done much with that page because, Facebook's kind of weird to make you pay for things, and I'm not in this topic for money. I know another podcast I was on, they want me to write a book. I'm very hesitant to do that because I don't feel that I'm anybody special. I'm just doing my own thing. I respect all the researchers pretty much out there. I may disagree with you, but I do respect all of them. But some of them can be pretty bullheaded about their belief system, and it's troublesome because you have to look at everything. You can't just get focused on, well, Stephen Greer, he's crap, or I don't know, Tom DeLonge's crap because he's getting whatever. You can't stay focused on it like that. You have to look at from 60,000 feet or even higher. You have to take the whole puzzle piece or the puzzle as a whole and take a look at it and try to work the problem. You can't just drill down. So my Facebook page, Occupy Area 51, it's kind of like a work in progress, not really, because I've had it for like 2 years now, and it's really not gone anywhere. It was kind of a thing that I just wanted to do for the public, maybe to learn a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I still will post things there, but not as much as I used to. If you want to know more of what my thinking is my personal Facebook page is a little bit more attuned to what I'm feeling these days. So.
Well, tell us where we can find you and follow anything you're putting out concerning this topic.
Just my Facebook page, Chris Wolford. You can find me. I have a picture with Nick Redfern from the Dogman Symposium conference this past July, and I'm pretty friendly. I don't bite. I treat everybody with respect. I don't try to go out and talk garbage about people. Even though people have talked pretty crappily to me or about me with regards to Tom DeLonge, with the stance as of late I've taken. And it's not like I'm trying to defend him. I'm not like a disciple. I'm not getting paid to tell you that you should believe him. And if you don't, you don't. That's fine. But I will say it's a foolish thing to just throw him out and say that we are going to learn nothing. One thing I will say about Tom DeLonge is he probably should have never said that he's going to make an announcement, because then he goes under the microscope and now people are like, well, it was supposed to be April 1st. Now it's going to be sometime in May, blah, 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 blah. So people get upset with that, and I get it, but it is what it is. He's not in control of that entire thing. I will say that. He's just along for a ride. So,
well, I think we'll learn a lot more as he puts out his work.
For sure.
You know, obviously, I think it's his credibility that's in question, but we'll see what he says. You know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris, for being part of the show today and for also listening to the show. I did have some discussion with Chris about some of the things that he was researching, and he wasn't quite ready to discuss all of them at this time, but I know the audience will be highly interested once he's ready. So we'll need to get him back for that in the near future. If you're following the show on social media, you might already know that I just turned 40 last week. The very best gift I can think of from any of you who listens to the show costs you nothing, and that would be to obtain some reviews on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Or if you'd like to shoot me an email, just to let me know what you think of the show, how I can improve it, or to recommend guests, you can get in touch with me at deviatuspod@gmail.com. I'll have all of today's links mentioned in my show notes at deviatus.com. Until next time, have a great week.